After coaching 250 students to scores of 30 or better on the ACT, I've noticed the same 11 lessons showing up again and again. The students who do the best on the ACT, they understand each one of these 11 lessons. So let's get into lesson number 1, the timing mistake. A lot of students think that they have a timing problem, but what they actually have is an accuracy problem. In order to understand this, you have to understand where speed actually comes from. And you can look at anything for this. Speed doesn't just come from rushing through and flying through everything. I can personally fly through ACT questions very quickly, but it's not because I'm just naturally a fast test taker. In fact, like the first couple times I took the ACT, I ran out of time consistently on the math and the reading sections. And timing was one of my big problems when I was stuck at a 31 before I ended up getting my perfect 36. The thing is, speed comes from muscle memory and repetition. If you think about like the first time you ever typed on a keyboard, you were probably typing extremely slowly. You were probably using like the hunt and peck method where you're just typing randomly. But that's because you were completely inexperienced the first time that you ever tried to use a keyboard. After you've typed out, a million emails, or you've made a million Google searches, you've probably increased the speed of your typing and a lot more comfortable using a keyboard. You're going to be putting out a lot more words per minute than you were the first time that you ever used it. The same exact thing applies to the ACT. I started to fly through ACT questions because I was able to practice specific drills for one type of question at a time, and I would master that one type of question. And just like some people use typing drills to practice improving their typing speed, we can do the same thing with ACT questions if we drill one type of question so that when the ACT asks it on maybe a little bit of a different way, we can still recognize that and still know exactly what we're doing when we go to solve it. It becomes just like muscle memory. And that's how we can improve our speed. That's how I can fly through ACT questions. And that's how a lot of our students in our coaching program are able to fly through questions and make it so that timing is not an actual issue. Lesson number 2 is the 4 to 8 week rule. So I've seen so many students try and drag the ACT prep process on for 6 months or even a year, and it leads to burnout every single time. And the students who set aside a short period of time, 4 to 8 weeks is a really good sprint period, end up doing a lot better than the students who end up trying to drag the process on for months and months. So let me tell you about 2 students that I worked with a couple years ago that taught me this lesson. Student number 1 was a student named Vikram. Vikram's dad wanted him to study for the ACT at 14 hours a week, so 2 hours every single day, for over 6 months before actually taking his first test. Vikram started out this process with a score of a 25 on the ACT. He ended up getting some scores on practice, and initially, after just a couple weeks of working with him, he had moved his scores up into like the low 30s range. But because he and his dad wanted to continue working for a long period of time and continue working at this incredibly intense pace, after about 2 months of working at least 2 hours per day, Vikram was entirely burnt out. He had seen the same stuff again and again so many times, it didn't just form muscle memory for him. He started dreading studying, and his mind just completely checked out, and it was complete burnout. And so his scores on practice tests actually started moving in the wrong direction, moving from that low 30s range down back into the upper 20s. And by the time he took that ACT after that 6-month period of studying, he ended up with just a 27 instead of that low 30s or even potentially, mid 30s score that he could have gotten if he had timed everything properly and not gotten burnt out. And on the other hand, at the same time, a couple years ago, I was working with a student named Carter. He took a very reasonable and measured approach, putting in about 1 hour of studying every single day for about 6 weeks. Carter was able to stay motivated for that entire 6-week sprint period because he was working hard. An hour per day is nothing to sneeze at, but he saw that finish line in front of him. He was like, I'm just going to do this for 6 weeks and then I'm going to probably be done after that. And so he started out at a 23, and even with a lot lighter of a workload than Vikram had at 1 hour a day, Carter was able to end up scoring a 30 after just 6 weeks of 1 hour per day of preparation because he didn't get burnt out. He was able to commit to the process and stick it out for the entire duration of it rather than getting burnt out a quarter of the way through. The big difference between these 2 cases is that Carter could see the finish line in front of him and he could continue sprinting through that finish line. Whereas Vikram, it was like he was running a marathon, but he started out trying to sprint the first mile. He finished the first mile faster than everyone else in the race, but then 25 miles later, he was walking and he was completely burnt out and he didn't even finish the race. And this lesson actually taught me a lot because this was back in my tutoring days where I was incentivized to have students work for more and longer durations of time, where Carter helped me realize that we didn't have to work more, we could just work more efficiently. So lesson number 3, content is most likely not your problem on the ACT. A lot of students think that they need to go back and relearn every single thing that was ever taught back in high school, but that's really just probably not the case for you. Probably already know 80% or so of the content that's tested on the ACT. The ACT tests the same core concepts over and over again, and they do so in a bit of a tricky way. So you have to understand what concepts are they actually teaching, what concepts are you not understanding and are you not doing well on because of the content, and you just study those. And when you just focus on what your true weaknesses are, you can make the process a lot more efficient. There's no reason for you to just continue reteaching yourself the same algebra concepts again and again and again if those aren't high priority concepts for your specific situation. And this leads directly into lesson number 4, which is that strategy wins on the ACT. And I say this specifically because we see so many students who come into our program, they're great students in high school, they're all A's, perfect grades or nearly perfect grades, but they struggle on standardized tests because they don't understand how to take the test. The thing is, students can do very well in high school, but very poorly on standardized tests because high school tests concepts in a very different way than the ACT does. High school pretty much only tests like one chapter of content at a time, and there's really no like strategy that you need to have in order to do well on those tests. The ACT, on the other hand, tests 2 different things at the same time. They test content and they test strategy. And like I said, most students have the content knowledge already. They just completely lack a lot of the strategy for approaching the ACT specifically. You can't go into the test with no content knowledge, but at the same time, if you have no strategy, you're not going to do well in this test either. And that's where a lot of the students who are great students in high school, they just don't have this strategy over here, and that's what's holding them back. So if you find yourself missing questions and losing points because you're running out of time, or when you're reviewing your test, you realize, oh, I knew that concept, I just didn't know why the ACT was asking it in this way, or I didn't understand how to approach this crazy long word problem, that means that you probably have a strategy deficiency and you can work on some specific drills to improve that strategy. And that's exactly what we do in our ACT coaching program. We help students find their specific weaknesses, we give them specific drills to improve on those weaknesses, and we make sure that they're able to improve their scores on test day. We've helped thousands of students over the last few years, and our students on average add more than 4 points to their ACT scores from start to finish. So if you're interested, check the link in the description down below. There should be some way that you can get in touch with us and find out more information on the program and whether or not it's a good fit for your situation. But let's get on to lesson number 5, which is practice like you play. So I see a lot of students who will practice, they'll study, they'll learn, they'll do whatever their way of practicing is in situations that are nothing like the actual test day at all. So when I played baseball back in the day, our big thing was that we always want to practice like we play, so that you can take whatever you're doing in practice and bring it over to the game day, and it should translate over very well. Now, if you're not doing this, then that could be a reason why you're doing very well in practice, but all of a sudden when you go to take the actual ACT, your score isn't as high as it should be. And one example of this is students who are practicing, taking practice tests without using the official ACT bubble sheet. There's no reason for you to not simulate the test environment as much as possible by practicing with actually filling in the bubbles on the ACT bubble sheet. If you think about it, just on like the English section alone, where there's 50 questions, if you're not using a bubble sheet and you're just circling the answers in a practice test booklet or something like that, you're cheating yourself because you're giving yourself a lot of extra time. Think about how long it takes to fill in 50 bubbles. Even if you weren't like thinking about ACT questions at all, if you were to just sit down and try and fill in 50 bubbles back to back to back, it would probably take you, 5, 6, 7 minutes. And so if you're not doing that when you're practicing, you're giving yourself artificial 5, 6, or 7 extra minutes to work on those questions. That might be another reason why when you're in the actual ACT test room, it seems like you're just running out of time way quicker than you would expect. So we always want to practice like we play and make sure that we're not surprised by any of the circumstances that show up on ACT test day. Now on to lesson number 6, the question type secret. So the secret to the ACT is that there are only so many different ways that they can test the same concepts again and again. So what they do is they have different question types that look very similar and test the same concept, but most students don't recognize what these question types are. And so it looks like there are just infinite number of different questions and there's no patterns or anything like that. But there are patterns to these question types. And if you can recognize what a question type looks like, and you can learn how to approach that one specific question. And once you learn the way of solving that question, you can apply it to a bunch of different questions that show up all the time on the ACT. For example, on the English section, there are about 30 different types of questions that show up again and again. So no matter what, whenever you're looking at an ACT English question, it pretty much falls into one of those 30 different buckets. And in our coaching program, actually, our head of student success, Martin, he has mapped out every single one of these 30 types of questions. And he's basically gone in and said, hey, on this type of question type number 10, all you need to do is you do X, Y, Z. We cross off the bottom 3 answers and we move on. That's not exactly what we do. It's a little bit more complicated than that. And that is really how the entire ACT works. If you can recognize what a question type looks like when it shows up on the ACT, and you have a process that you've already ingrained in your head, then you can move very quickly and very accurately through the ACT, and that's how you can end up with a great score. Lesson number 7 is the parent versus the student dilemma. And we see this happen sometimes. It doesn't happen every single time, but we do see it a lot where parents and students have different goals and different things that they want. Even if they have the same goal, different ways of going about trying to get there. A lot of times over on the parent side, parents understand the value of hard work and they want their kids to do as much hard work as they possibly can. But on the other hand, students a lot of times don't necessarily think that the ACT is something that they want to just dedicate their entire life to, and they don't want to maybe work quite as hard as their parents think that they should, because the parents a lot of times recognize just how important it is and they understand that hard work value, and students, they have a lot of other priorities. And if there's a lot of friction here, then this can really throw a wrench in the process of getting ready for the ACT. In reality, the way that we handle these situations is that we understand that both perspectives here are valid. Parents know that hard work is good, which it is. Students know that there are other things that are going on as well, and they don't want to just dedicate their entire lives to ACT prep. We, in our program, we come to typically, some sort of a compromise in the middle where we know that students can work very efficiently and do a lot. They can do everything that they really need to with about 5 to 7 hours per week of study time. And if they're working efficiently and they're not wasting their time, do it for just a short period of time that's really effective, it makes it a lot easier for students to commit to the process. And for the parents, that makes it so that, hey, we know we're making progress every single day and we know we've got a finish line to work towards. And that's what I typically see as a good, happy compromise for most situations, because at the end of the day, both parents and students are on the same side. They both want a good ACT score. They both want the student to get into the best college, earn the most scholarships, pay the least amount of money for tuition. And as long as we can come to a good agreement on the best way to actually get there, then everybody's happy at the end of the day. And lesson number 8 here, super scoring is overpowered. So a lot of people don't understand the best way to leverage super scoring to their advantage. Pretty much all colleges will accept super scores nowadays, so you should be using this to your advantage. There's no reason for you to be studying for all 4 sections of the ACT all at one time. Again, going back to lesson number 7, where we have students only working for short sprints of 4 to 6 weeks, we can just study for 1 or 2 sections of the test at a time. And that makes it so we're not spreading ourselves too thin. We can get really great scores in 1 or 2 of those sections of the test. And then we can do another sprint period where we take our sections that we didn't focus on. Maybe we focused on math the first time, we got a really good math score because we completely ignored reading and English. Now we can go and just work on reading and English and ignore math because we already have a great math score. And because we can just focus on reading and English, we can go out and get a great score on reading and English. And then we combine those scores together. We take the great math score over here, the great reading and English scores over here. We put them together for the best overall super score. And that way we can work really efficiently to get much better scores much quicker. Now, lesson number 9 is the weakness lie. I see this a lot of times where students will hear some of what I say and they'll understand, oh, I need to work on my weaknesses rather than my strengths. So they go work on some obscure ellipse question on the math section and they spend a whole week trying to learn how to solve these ellipse questions because they know that that's a weakness for them. But the problem with this is that your true weaknesses that you should be working on are the ones where you're weak on that subject and it shows up a lot on the ACT. The second piece that I just mentioned is probably the most important part of this, because if you spend a bunch of time studying obscure concepts that never show up, it's not going to help your score that much. There may only be one question on the ACT math section about an ellipse, and sometimes there won't even be a question about ellipses on the math section. So you want to really prioritize the questions that you're not doing well on and that show up the most frequently. Lesson number 10, this one's on the reading section. And this is that reading faster is not actually going to be what gets you a better score on the reading section. So a lot of students think that they just need to read faster and process words faster in order to get a better reading score. What you really need to do on the reading section is have a good strategy, finding the specific piece of evidence that the question is asking about at any given time. It's not necessarily that you just need to read and understand the entire passage. It's that each question has one specific piece of evidence in the passage and you just need to go find that. The thing about the reading questions is that a lot of people think these questions are subjective and you can make arguments for multiple different answer choices, but it's a standardized test. Every single question has an objectively correct answer choice, and there are 3 answer options that are objectively incorrect for some reason. You just have to know that there is evidence in the passage, so you should use the question itself to identify different key words and key phrases to look for in the passage when you're going to look for that specific piece of evidence. Then you bring it back to the question and you have your one objectively correct answer. Now, lesson number 11 is that it's a lot harder to do ACT prep on your own than it is with someone who's done it before. The students who do the best, the fastest on the ACT all have one thing in common. They all had somebody who's been there, done that, and seen all the mistakes to help them avoid the mistakes that they didn't even know were out there, didn't even know that they were making. It's absolutely possible to do well, study for the ACT, and get a great score on your own, but you're gonna run into a lot of situations where you're stuck and you don't know what to do, you don't know where to turn, you don't know who to ask for what. ChatGPT and Google just aren't giving you the best answers, and that's where it really helps to have an expert who's been there, done that, in your corner that you can ask questions to at all points in time, and who can help point out these mistakes that you're making before you even know that you're making them. And that's exactly what we do for our students in our ACT coaching program. You know, we have a team of experts who have been there, done that. They've worked with thousands of students to get incredible scores on the ACT. Our average result is that a student gets more than 4 extra points on the ACT after joining our program. And you're interested in shortcutting the process, speeding up that learning curve, and avoiding the mistakes that you don't even know that you're making, then click the link in the description down below. There should be some information down there on the program and how to get in contact with us and see if it's a good fit for you or your child to join our program. And if you're not interested in joining our paid coaching program, then just click the subscribe button right here and stick around for more free content just like this that can help you out.